Imagine you are sitting comfortably inside a high-speed bullet train, sipping your coffee, but you are not traveling across a flat, ordinary landscape. Instead, you are screaming at incredible speeds directly through the heart of the most dangerous, the most unstable, and the highest mountain range on the planet. Just inches outside your reinforced window, sub-zero winds are violently tearing across the peaks, and your train is suspended thousands of feet in the air, racing across massive steel bridges that span terrifyingly deep, ancient canyons. This is not a scene from a science fiction movie. This is the sheer, brutal reality of human engineering. This is the Sichuan-Tibet Railway. When China authorized this mega project, they did not just decide to build a train line. They declared an absolute, uncompromising war against gravity, extreme weather, and the merciless terrain of the Himalayas. The Yan to Ningxi section of this railway is arguably one of the most expensive, dangerous, and jaw-dropping infrastructure projects ever attempted in the history of human civilization. This single section commands a staggering, incomprehensible budget of over $30 billion. That is enough capital to build entire modern cities from scratch. But China poured every single drop of that $30 billion into carving a single pathway through solid rock. Why? Because this time, they were not crossing a gentle river or a flat desert. They were forcefully ripping a path straight through the solid, unforgiving chest of the Himalayas. When you ride this train, you are not moving on a level plane. Over the course of its journey, the track executes a terrifying 3,000-meter elevation swing. That means the train aggressively climbs thousands of meters into the sky and then plunges back down into deep valleys, equivalent to stacking 3 Burj Khalifas on top of each other and traveling up and down them at highway speeds. This is no longer just a train ride. It is a masterclass in defying the absolute laws of physics, a place where engineers took the impossible and forced it into reality. The most mind-bending and terrifying aspect of this entire $30 billion leviathan is its structural layout. When the architectural engineers first drafted the blueprints, they immediately realized a fatal truth. Laying a traditional railway track on the surface of the Himalayas was an absolute death sentence. The terrain is simply too violent and too unpredictable. Because of this, a staggering 94.8% of this entire railway line consists exclusively of bridges and tunnels. You must understand the sheer gravity of that statistic. It means that for almost its entire journey, this high-speed train completely abandons the surface of the Earth. It is either plunging deep into the suffocating pitch-black depths of solid mountain rock through massive concrete tunnels, or it is flying through the clouds, suspended on colossal steel bridges over deep, roaring abysses. To conquer the Himalayas, engineers made the extreme decision to bypass the surface entirely and carve their way through the inside of the Earth. But the Himalayas are not dead, silent mountains. Geologists classify this entire region as one of the most violent and active tectonic war zones on the planet. Deep underground, the Indian tectonic plate is continuously, aggressively smashing into the Eurasian plate. The Earth here is constantly moving, grinding and shifting, creating an ever-present, terrifying threat of massive earthquakes. In an environment this hostile, digging a standard tunnel is essentially suicide, because even a microscopic tectonic shift could instantly crush a tunnel like an empty soda can, burying everything inside. To neutralize this apocalyptic threat, engineers deployed fleets of the most advanced, customized tunnel boring machines ever constructed. These TBMs were not standard industrial equipment. They were colossal, skyscraper-sized robotic monsters, heavily armored and specifically engineered to violently chew through the incredibly dense, ancient granite of the Himalayas. However, grinding through solid rock was only the beginning of their subterranean nightmare. Deep inside the mountains, thousands of meters below the surface, the rock is subjected to unimaginable, crushing geological pressure. As the machines carved their way forward, this pressure triggered a terrifying phenomenon known as rockbursts. Without warning, the immense stress would cause the solid stone walls to violently detonate, firing massive shards of razor-sharp rock into the tunnels like shrapnel from a bomb. Furthermore, the drilling operations would constantly puncture high-pressure underground aquifers, instantly flooding the claustrophobic tunnels with boiling, highly pressurized water and devastating mudbursts capable of washing away heavy industrial machinery in seconds. Faced with these catastrophic, hellish conditions, the engineers refused to retreat. Instead, they adapted. They utilized extreme, highly calculated explosive techniques, custom-designed titanium drill bits, and advanced radar imaging to see through the solid rock before they cut it. They fought inch by agonizing inch to carve out a perfectly safe, highly reinforced, earthquake-proof subterranean network where a bullet train could safely travel at terrifying speeds without being crushed by the weight of the mountain above. When the train finally bursts out of the suffocating darkness of these massive tunnels and into the open air, it is not greeted by flat, gentle plains. Instead, it is immediately thrust over thousands of feet of empty air, crossing terrifying, bottomless canyons and violently roaring rivers. To cross these massive, endless voids, China constructed brutalist concrete and steel megabridges that completely shatter the known limits of civil engineering. The colossal suspension and arch bridges spanning the Dadu River and the Yarlung-Tsangpo River are towering testaments to this extreme engineering warfare. To keep these massive bridges standing, engineers had to drive colossal concrete pillars incredibly deep into the jagged bedrock at the very bottom of the canyons. Looking down from the finished deck of these bridges induces an instant feeling of vertigo and profound thalassophobia, as nothing but ancient jagged rocks and aggressive churning white water wait thousands of feet below. Furthermore, the deep Himalayan valleys function as massive wind tunnels, generating extreme wind shear and sudden violent storms that could easily rip a standard bridge completely off its foundation. To prevent this, these colossal structures were given highly aerodynamic profiles. Every single concrete pillar, every thick steel suspension cable, and every heavy iron joint was meticulously simulated on advanced supercomputers. They were specifically designed to dynamically flex, absorb, and completely dissipate the deep vibrations of tectonic earthquakes and the violent pressure of high-speed mountain winds. Instead of swaying helplessly in the storm, these bridges stand like unyielding, impenetrable walls, completely ignoring the fury of nature. In a project of this magnitude, there is absolutely zero margin for error. A single millimeter of misalignment or a microscopic slag inclusion in a single steel weld could trigger a catastrophic structural blowout, destroying the entire $30 billion project and claiming thousands of lives. To ensure this never happens, highly specialized inspectors, armed with advanced industrial drones and laser X-ray scanners, continuously probed every single inch of concrete and every single weld, ensuring absolute, uncompromising perfection. Yet, the towering mountains, the terrifying abysses, and the violent winds were not the only enemies. This railway line physically climbs into the most extreme, freezing, and hostile environments on the planet, entering areas that are essentially atmospheric death zones. At elevations exceeding 4,000 meters, the air becomes incredibly thin, and oxygen levels violently drop to a point where simply taking a breath becomes a desperate struggle for survival. In these terrifying conditions, armies of laborers, deep welders, and structural engineers worked relentlessly, day and night. They were forced to strap heavy oxygen cylinders to their backs just to survive, battling extreme sub-zero temperatures and freezing winds that could cause frostbite in minutes, all while fusing together massive steel grids suspended in the sky. Because of this life-threatening atmosphere, standard passenger trains were completely useless. The engineers had to fundamentally redesign the very concept of a high-speed train. The passenger cars were transformed into advanced, aircraft-level pressurized cabins, equipped with heavy-duty environmental control systems and specialized, automated oxygen generators. The moment the train aggressively climbs into the high-altitude death zone, the onboard computers instantly detect the pressure drop and automatically begin pumping pure oxygen directly into the cabins, ensuring that not a single passenger experiences hypoxia or altitude sickness. The massive glass windows and the thick, heavy metal body of the train were heavily insulated with advanced thermal materials, ensuring that the freezing, lethal temperatures outside cannot drop the internal cabin temperature by even a single degree, while simultaneously blocking the intense, high-altitude ultraviolet radiation. Beyond the oxygen and the cold, there was one final, invisible engineering nightmare waiting for them: permafrost. Permafrost is a thick layer of soil and rock that has remained completely frozen solid for centuries. When a heavy, high-speed train violently races over this frozen earth, the immense mechanical friction and kinetic vibration generate a massive amount of thermodynamic heat. If this heat were allowed to seep into the ground, it would melt the ancient ice, turning the rock-solid foundation into a soft, useless swamp of mud. The ground would instantly cave in, the structural foundation would violently collapse, and the entire train would be thrown off the mountain. To permanently neutralize this thermodynamic disaster, the engineers executed a miracle of geoengineering. They aggressively embedded an intricate, highly complex vascular network of liquid nitrogen and thermosiphon cooling pipes deep into the earth, stretching for hundreds of kilometers beneath the tracks. This artificial, circulatory cooling system functions like a massive refrigerator, aggressively extracting heat from the soil and venting it into the atmosphere. It keeps the earth permanently and artificially frozen solid, ensuring that the foundation never shifts by a single microscopic millimeter, no matter how heavy the train is or how violently fast it travels. The Sichuan-Tibet Railway is not just a story about a commute, and it is not merely a transportation project. It is an epic, multi-generational war fought between human ambition, sheer willpower, and the absolute most brutal forces of nature. By spending $30 billion, China simultaneously challenged the uncompromising forces of gravity, extreme and unpredictable weather, oxygen deprivation, and the terrifying power of deep tectonic earthquakes, and they conquered them all. This brutalist network, composed almost entirely of isolated tunnels and towering bridges, was once considered an impossible, laughable dream in the world of civil engineering. Today, it has been forced into absolute reality. As this high-tech bullet train violently and mercilessly tears through the chest of these ancient mountains, flying through the clouds and aggressively climbing toward the roof of the world, it broadcasts a loud, jaw-dropping message to the entire planet. In the face of sheer technological arrogance and advanced human engineering, no terrain, no mountain, and no abyss is impossible. However, there is a dark, terrifying reality to this awe-inspiring achievement. Nature never truly surrenders. Every single second of every single day, the environment is aggressively trying to take its mountain back. This railway exists in a permanent, zero-tolerance zone. If a maintenance crew makes a single mistake, or if a deep subterranean sensor misses a minor fault in the concrete, the merciless and terrifying terrain of the Himalayas will instantly rise up and violently crush this $30 billion miracle back into dust and shattered stone. To prevent this apocalyptic failure, engineers sit in highly secure control rooms 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They utilize advanced supercomputers, complex artificial intelligence algorithms, and tens of thousands of highly sensitive electronic strain gauges to meticulously monitor the microscopic vibration of every single bridge, the slight geological shifting of every single tunnel, and the thermal stress of every single concrete pillar. They fight this invisible, never-ending war so that passengers can sit comfortably in their seats, looking out the window in absolute awe, completely fearless as they become part of the most impossible $30 billion engineering miracle in human history.